My name is Arya, and I want you to remember this. Betrayal does not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it walks in wearing satin, smiling, and it comes from the hand you trusted most. For nearly 10 years I believed Lena was that hand. We met as freshmen, knees pulled to our chests on a cold dorm floor, sketching futures on loose paper. She was bold and loud, I was careful and tireless. She called us a team. I believed every word. The ballroom proved how wrong I was. Chandeliers glowed like small suns. Glasses chimed. A hush rolled across the crowd as the spotlight found her. Lena stood in a crimson dress and talked about a product strategy that would, in her words, create the future instead of chasing it. The phrase stabbed me. I had written it on a coffee napkin during a midnight sprint 2 months earlier. I had shown it to her with pride. Slide after slide flickered above her. They were my diagrams, cleaned and dressed, but mine all the same. The market map, the staged rollouts, the pivot triggers, the language about trust and time to value, each piece lifted from my notebooks and stitched into her speech. I sat frozen, palms pressed to the chair, while the room leaned forward, captivated by a story I had bled to shape. When applause exploded, Lena glanced down at me and smiled. It was a small, private cut. She knew exactly what she had taught. People rose to their feet. The MC called her a visionary and handed her an award that flashed white under the lights. Cameras clicked. I stayed seated, pulse loud in my ears, watching my work crown someone else. Anger did not roar, it clarified. The longer I looked, the more precise my thoughts became. This was not an accident. This was not a mix-up or crossed wires. This was a theft rehearsed to look like talent. I replayed the late nights I had spent with her. The way she would say, "Tell it to me like I am an investor," and I would stand by the window and pitch into the dark while she nodded and asked for my phrasing one more time. The way she would text, "Send your notes so I can compare," and I would send entire drafts. The way she would laugh and say, "We are unstoppable," and I would believe her because believing felt easier than guarding. The ovation faded. A band began to play a bright tune. People swarmed her for photos. I slipped into a shadow by a column and breathed. Shame tried to climb my throat, I pushed it down with one truth. I knew this material more intimately than anyone in the room. I could trace every line to its first spark. That meant I had leverage if I chose to claim it. I did not rush the stage. I did not cause a scene. I watched. Who shook her hand? Who avoided my eyes? Who mouthed, "Wow," in a way that said they had already rewritten the story to fit the picture in front of them? And then I did something simple and final. I made a promise to myself, clear as glass. She could keep tonight. I would take back the rest. I turned toward the exit to steady myself and nearly collided with the one person I had hoped to miss. Damon, Lena's new mentor, blocked my path with a practiced smile. "Brilliant," he said. "Lena is a force." He tilted his head. "You two still close?" "We were," I said. His eyes flicked to the stage, then back to me. "Figures," he murmured. "Every star has gravity." He moved on. His words landed wrong. Stars do not steal light. They generate it. The band hit a final chord. The MC lifted the mic again. "Before we close, our honoree will answer questions." Hands shot up. Lena basked, ready. I stepped sideways into the aisle and felt a strange, steady calm settle in. If she wanted a stage, I would give her one, just not the script she expected. I pulled my phone from my clutch and opened the folder I had not named for fear someone might see it. Inside lived drafts, timestamps, voice memos, and a photo of the napkin where that line had been born. I watched her speak, and I began to count down in my head. 5, 4, 3. When I reached 1, I looked up and raised my hand. "Arya," the MC called. "Do you have a question for the visionary?" I stood, and the room turned as one. "Yes," I said. I have one question. And I let the silence stretch until it belonged to me. My voice did not shake. I named the phrase, the timeline, and the napkin. Then I asked how my words reached her slides. Cameras lifted. The band fell still. Lena's smile held. My patience did not. I waited now. Lena's smile froze for the briefest moment. To the crowd, it might have looked like poise, like she was taking a breath before answering. But I knew her too well. I saw the flicker in her eyes. That tiny spark of panic, quickly buried under polish. She laughed lightly. Arya has always been one of my greatest supporters. We brainstorm together all the time. Ideas flow back and forth between us. She lifted her hand like she was toasting me. Credit belongs to both of us. The crowd chuckled approvingly. They wanted a story of collaboration, of friendship, of women lifting each other up. They wanted harmony. What they did not know was that harmony had been shattered months earlier, piece by piece, until only the shards were left. I sat back down, but my question had already done its work. The audience shifted uneasily, like a mirror cracked down the center. Some clapped anyway. Some looked at me curiously. And Lena, for the rest of her Q&A, avoided my gaze. That was the first public fracture. But the truth of her theft had started long before this night. I thought back to the beginning. It was winter when I shared the model with her in full. Snow had been falling outside my apartment window, layering the city in quiet white. She sat at my desk, flipping through my notes, her nails tapping against the pages. "This," she had said, "is brilliant. You should present it at the conference." I smiled then, warmed by her encouragement. I thought she meant it. We stayed up until dawn that night, mapping improvements on sticky notes, my handwriting filling every corner of the wall. She took photos of the sketches with her phone, just so we don't lose them. I thought nothing of it. Weeks later, she began canceling our catch-ups. She said she was too busy, preparing for something, always vague. When I asked what, she changed the subject. One evening, she texted me late, saying, "Don't worry about the conference. I'll handle it." At first, I thought she meant logistics. Then, when I offered to co-present, she dodged again. The final blow came when I saw her name listed in the program. Not mine. Just hers. I told myself it was a mistake. A typo. That she had meant to include me. But when I called her, my hands trembling, she said cheerfully, "Oh, Arya, you've been so stressed. Let me take this one off your plate. You'll get the recognition later. We're a team, remember? A team." That word had become a weapon. I wanted to believe her. I swallowed my doubts and told myself not to ruin our friendship. But in the weeks leading up to the event, small cracks widened. She stopped answering my calls. She brushed off questions. And then, 2 days before the conference, she posted a teaser on social media, a photo of her laptop with one of my diagrams blurred in the corner. The caption read, "Excited to share my vision with the world." My vision. Her caption. Something inside me went cold. That night, I pulled out my journals. Page after page of my handwriting stared back at me. Timestamps. Drafts. Voice memos. I scrolled back through messages where I had explained concepts in detail. I remembered her nodding, listening, recording my words like seeds she planned to plant in her own garden. It was no longer a mistake. It was deliberate theft. By the time I sat in that ballroom, the evidence was already stacked. And as she smiled into the cameras, I realized I had been preparing for this without even knowing it. My notes. My files. My screenshots. They weren't just memories. They were proof. The betrayal was no longer a secret between us. I had cracked the glass. And now the whole room had seen the first fracture. What I needed next was a plan to shatter it completely. The night of the conference did not break me. It armed me. While Lena basked in her victory, I left with something she could not see: clarity. If she had stolen my idea once, she would keep stealing until I stopped her. And the only way to stop her was not anger. It was evidence. I began the very next morning. I opened my laptop and scrolled through years of messages, emails, and voice notes. The pattern jumped out immediately. Screenshots of her asking me to remind her of that phrase I used last night. Messages where I spelled out key steps in the model. Photos she had taken of my sticky notes, which she later claimed were hers. The trail was not hidden. It was sitting in plain sight, waiting for me to connect the dots. I started a folder and named it simply, Truth. At first, it felt petty, like I was hoarding memories of a broken friendship. But the deeper I went, the more I saw how deliberate she had been. She had praised me just enough to keep me close, always careful to take without leaving fingerprints. But my records told another story. My drafts had timestamps. My emails had metadata. My voice memos carried the sound of my voice explaining concepts she later repeated word for word. The weight of it made my stomach twist. How long had she been planning this? Did she ever really see me as a friend, or had I always been a resource to mine? One evening, I went back to the notebook stacked on my shelf. Their pages smelled faintly of ink and dust. I flipped through them, page by page, until I found the napkin sketch. The original phrase. The seed of the idea she had used as her opener. Seeing my own handwriting again felt like fire returning to embers. That napkin alone could not expose her. But paired with everything else? It was a weapon. Still, I knew evidence without witnesses was fragile. People needed to hear more than documents. They needed voices, experiences, stories that matched mine. I reached out to people who had been in the room during our brainstorming nights. A classmate remembered me sketching diagrams in marker while Lena scrolled her phone. Another recalled me explaining the rollout stages at a cafe while Lena typed silently, later presenting those exact words as if she had come up with them. I asked each one to send me a written statement. They did. Piece by piece, the truth folder grew heavier. But gathering evidence was not just about proving theft. It was about proving intent. And Lena had left traces of that too. In one message, she had joked, "You always do the hard part, Arya. I just make it sound pretty." At the time, I laughed. Now, reading it again, it was a confession dressed as humor. Every screenshot, every note, every testimony became another brick in a wall I was building. Not to hide behind. To stand on. And yet, even as I worked, part of me still mourned. I remembered the nights when we whispered about futures, about building something bigger than ourselves. I had believed her when she said we would be unstoppable. What I never realized was that she meant unstoppable for her, at my expense. By the end of the month, my folder was overflowing. I printed some of the files, laid them out across my dining table, and stared at the mosaic of my stolen work. It looked undeniable. But evidence without timing is just paper. I needed more than proof. I needed strategy. Because if I confronted her too soon, she would twist it. She would charm. She would laugh. And people would believe her because she had always known how to bend a room. No. I had to wait. I had to let her dig deeper, take more, so that when the moment came, her lies would collapse under the weight of her own audacity. And as if on cue, the next opportunity arrived faster than I expected. An email landed in my inbox, an invitation to a major industry gala. The keynote speaker? Lena. I stared at the screen, my pulse quickening. This was it. Another stage. Another spotlight. Another chance for her to steal. But also, my chance to strike. The only question now was, how? I did not want a scene. I wanted the truth to stand on its own feet. For that, I needed allies. The first call I made was to Maya Chen. She is an intellectual property attorney. Calm voice. Precise mind. I sent her the truth folder and waited. She called back before noon. "This is strong," she said. "Dates. Metadata. Witness statements. You are the origin." She paused. "We will keep it clean. No insults. Only facts." We met in her office that afternoon. White walls. A simple plant. Nothing to distract from the work. Maya slid a checklist across the table. "Register a copyright for your white paper and your slide deck," she said. "Deposit the napkin sketch as supplementary material. Print and notarize the witness statements. Prepare a neutral public record, time-stamped and hosted off your personal accounts." I followed every instruction. I uploaded my paper. I filed the applications. I watched the confirmation numbers appear like anchors on a storm map. Maya drafted a short letter. Not a threat. A boundary. It said, "Arya is the author. Use requires attribution or consent." It did not call Lena a thief. It did not need to. Next, I called Professor Halpern. He taught us product ethics. He remembered me. He also remembered the night I stayed after class to talk through the model. He signed a statement. "Arya described the staged rollout to me," he wrote. "She showed me sketches. Her name belongs on it." He sent a scan with a firm signature. I printed it and set it beside the napkin. I met Danny for coffee. She has known me since high school. She does not speak to fill silence. When I told her everything, she squeezed my hand. "You do not need noise," she said. "You need a frame." We built that frame over 2 hours at a small table. I drew a timeline on a yellow pad. Danny circled key dates. "Show them the order," she said. "Make it simple enough that no one can twist it." We rehearsed a question for the gala's Q&A. Short. Clear. Unavoidable. "What date did you draft your model, Lena?" "Because on this date, I shared the same outline with you." I reached out to Miguel, who manages audio and screens for the gala every year. He is not a fixer. He is a professional. I did not ask him to do anything wrong. I asked him a single question. "Will the Q&A be live?" He nodded. "Yes. We keep it open. But keep it brief." I thanked him and walked away with a tiny piece of air in my lungs. Then I built a site. 1 page. No commentary. A header with my name. A timeline with files. A footer with Maya's contact. I named it Origin Ledger. I set a scheduled release for the exact minute the keynote would begin. If Lena used my words again, the record would already be public. Not viral. Just present. A light in a room that used to be dark. Maya reviewed the page. "Good," she said. No adjectives. No heat. Only evidence. She drafted a second letter, softer than the first. It thanked organizers for their code of conduct. It noted the live Q&A. It stated that a question on attribution might arise. It cited their own policy line, "We credit work." I invited 3 people to attend. Professor Halpern. A recruiter who had once dismissed me as too academic. A sponsor who funds ethical design. I did not tell them to take sides. I told them there would be a record. I asked them to watch. I also protected myself. I moved my notes from shared folders to a private drive. I backed up everything to an external hard disk. I changed passwords. I set 2-factor authentication. It felt paranoid. It felt like brushing your teeth before a long trip. Necessary and easy to skip until you are sorry. By the end of the week, the plan was set. My lawyer had letters. My professor had dates. My friend had a seat beside me. The site was timed. The question was written. The room would belong to her for an hour. The record would belong to me for as long as truth matters. The night before the gala, I stood in my kitchen and read the question out loud. My voice was steady. My hands were not. I folded the yellow page and slid it into my bag. I checked the time on the site again. I checked the auto-send on the letters. I checked the battery on my phone. I was ready. Then a courier knocked at my door. He held out a thick envelope. My name was printed in careful black ink. Inside was a letter on heavy paper. It was from a firm I did not know. The words were dry. The message was not. Cease and desist. Do not appear. Do not speak. Do not defame. They named Lena as the injured party. They named her keynote as a protected space. They warned me that any public statement would be met with action. I read it twice. My stomach went cold and then hot. I called Maya. She picked up on the first ring. I read the letter to her. Breathe, she said. This is a scare tactic. It is vague. It is preemptive. It is also sloppy. Can they stop me? I asked. No, she said. You will not defame. You will ask a question with a date. You will point to a public record. You will not accuse. You will not label. You will not say thief. You will say, here is the order. A long silence sat between us. Do you still want to go? She asked. I looked at the yellow page on the counter. I thought about Lena's face under the lights. I thought about my name on the napkin. I thought about the students who might sit in that room next year and wonder if it is safe to build. Yes, I said. I want to go. Maya's voice softened. Then go, she said. And carry this in your pocket. She sent a short reply to the firm while we spoke. It was 2 sentences long. It said that I would speak within my rights. It noted that we welcomed clarity. It copied the organizers. I set the heavy letter beside the plant on my table. It looked important. It was not. I packed my bag. I laid out a simple dress. I set an alarm. I tried to sleep. At 6 in the morning, my phone buzzed with a new message from the gala. Subject line, program update. I opened it and felt the ground shift beneath my feet. The email subject line blinked in my inbox, program update. My chest tightened as if those 2 words were bricks pressing down on my ribs. I opened it with a shaking hand. Due to scheduling adjustments, keynote speaker Lena Rivers will now be featured in a special evening segment. Q&A format will be abbreviated. Audience questions will be pre-screened for time. Pre-screened. Controlled. Filtered. Exactly the one thing I could not afford. For a moment, all the air left the room. My carefully crafted question, my steady timeline, my planned precision, all of it depended on Lena being exposed in real time. If the organizers blocked me, she would shine uninterrupted. She would spin her narrative, bow, and leave with applause. But then I noticed the timing. Evening segment. That meant her talk would not begin until after dinner. And by then, my Origin Ledger site would already be live. Evidence, released on schedule, no matter what. Still, a question gnawed at me. If the Q&A was filtered, how could I make the truth echo inside the room, not just online? I called Maya. She listened in silence as I read the email. Then, with her usual calm, she said, Arya, pre-screening does not silence you. It changes the path. We adapt. Adapt. That word settled into me like steel. Maya suggested a second step. If they filter the audience, create another voice inside the program. Find someone on the sponsor list who will be in the room. Hand them your question. If it comes from a sponsor, it cannot be cut. I thought of Professor Halpern, already attending. He was respected, old guard, the kind of voice organizers could not brush aside without consequence. I called him immediately. He listened, slow and measured, then said, "Send me your exact wording. If they pass me the mic, I will ask." Relief spread through me like water in dry soil. Backup secured. Next, I turned to Danny. "What if they block everything?" I asked. She leaned closer across the cafe table where we sat that morning. "Then you do not need the mic. You just need one line. A stage does not belong to them. It belongs to whoever takes it." She was right. Even without a question, I could still stand. I could still claim space. Not to scream. Not to accuse. To place truth where it could not be erased. That afternoon, I refined my site. I added a countdown timer at the top. Evidence releases in 14 minutes and 32 seconds. The moment her keynote began, the numbers would roll to zero. The files, the napkin, the statements, all there for anyone to see. No password. No commentary. Just the clean, cold order of facts. I also scheduled a message to the conference mailing list. Not dramatic. Not loud. A simple subject line, Attribution Materials, Aria Kane. It linked directly to the site. The email would go out 5 minutes after Lena took the stage. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. Not giddy, not triumphant. Calm. The kind of calm that comes when the math is balanced, when the pieces click into place. That night, as I zipped my dress into a garment bag, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My face looked tired but steady. I touched the napkin sketch tucked safely into a folder. The ink had faded, but the words were still mine. They had always been mine. Morning came fast. The city buzzed as if it knew something was about to break. I ate little. I checked my bag twice. I walked into the gala hall as lights glowed gold above polished floors. People clustered at round tables, their laughter filling the space. Lena moved among them, radiant in a red dress, her smile stretched wide enough to hide everything. Cameras flashed. Her hand grazed shoulders. Her voice rose above the crowd like a practiced melody. But I noticed something she did not, whispers. Small, quiet, circling whispers. My confrontation at the last event had left cracks in her perfect glass. And tonight, with the countdown ticking silently in my bag, those cracks were about to widen. As the lights dimmed and the announcer called her name, Lena stepped onto the stage. Applause thundered. She adjusted the mic, lifted her chin, and began to speak. And as her first words rang out, the countdown on my phone hit zero. The countdown on my phone hit zero, and with it my entire plan slipped into motion. The Origin Ledger site was live. The scheduled email was already in inboxes. The evidence no longer belonged only to me, it belonged to the record. But the night was far from over. Lena stood tall beneath the stage lights, her voice carrying confidence into every corner of the hall. Innovation, she declared, is not just about vision. It is about bravery. She smiled, and the audience leaned closer. I knew those words. They were mine. I had written them in a late-night note to myself months ago. I gripped the edge of my table. This was the moment. My plan was airtight. But then, the pivot came. The event moderator walked up the side of the stage, whispering something in Lena's ear. She nodded, her smile never faltering. Then the moderator lifted the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, we've had an unexpected adjustment. Tonight's keynote will not include a live Q and A due to time constraints. Please direct all questions to the written submission portal. Gasps rippled through the tables. My stomach dropped. No Q&A. No opening for Halpern to ask the question. No chance for me to stand and cut through with facts. It felt like a trap door had opened under my feet. Danny leaned across the table, whispering sharply. Aria. They cut the Q&A. What now? My pulse hammered. The entire strategy had been balanced on this moment, and suddenly the ground shifted. If Lena spoke uninterrupted, the evidence would circulate online but not pierce this room. She would walk out of here still glowing, still adored. I checked my phone. Notifications flooded in. People outside the conference were already opening the site, commenting, sharing. The evidence was spreading, but inside the hall, the story was still hers. Professor Halpern's hand touched my shoulder gently. His eyes, calm as ever, met mine. The room is watching her, he murmured. But they are also watching for cracks. Do not force it. Wait. Time has a way of revealing what arrogance tries to hide. Wait? That word tasted like ash. I had waited too long already. I looked at Lena, radiant in her red dress. She was walking straight into the speech I knew line for line, dressed in words I had bled for. The room applauded again, hungry for her brilliance. I felt the yellow paper in my bag, the folded question. It was useless now, ink on a page with no voice to carry it. My chest burned with the weight of silence. Then, as if fate itself had reached for me, my phone buzzed again. A single line appeared on the lock screen from Maya. They blocked you in the room, but not online. Check the live feed. I opened the streaming link for the keynote. And there it was, thousands of viewers watching live, the chat flooding. The countdown timer from my site had synced perfectly. And already, lines from the Origin ledger were being pasted into the comments, side by side with Lena's words. Inside the room, she still had control. Outside, the world was starting to see. But if I wanted the truth to echo here, in this hall where she had stolen my breath and my place, I needed to act. Quietly. Sharply. Without waiting for permission. I glanced at Danny. She caught my eye and nodded once, as if she knew exactly what I was about to do. And in that instant, I rose from my seat. The ballroom was drenched in applause, every eye pinned to Lena as she paraded across the stage with my words curled on her tongue. She looked untouchable, her smile polished into armor. But I stood, heart hammering, and the room shifted. A few heads turned. Murmurs rustled. I did not rush. I walked the aisle slowly, heels striking the floor in a steady rhythm that even the band could not cover. Lena's eyes found me mid-step. For the first time all night, her smile faltered. "Excuse me," I said, my voice clear, carrying further than I imagined. "I have something to add." The moderator froze, caught between protocol and spectacle. Cameras swiveled. The spotlight, hungry for conflict, followed me as if it had been waiting. "I am Arya Kane," I continued, standing at the foot of the stage. And every diagram on those slides began in my notebooks. Every phrase she just recited was drafted in my files. The proof is live right now. Gasps erupted. Phones lifted instantly. A ripple of motion swept the crowd as attendees scrambled to check the stream, the site, the email that had just landed in their inboxes. Screens glowed across the room like stars winking on at once. Lena's voice wavered for the first time. "This is slander," she snapped, her tone sharp, brittle. "No," I said evenly. "This is sequence. The napkin sketch. The drafts. The voice memos. All stamped. All dated. All uploaded. And all available for you to see." I lifted my phone and held it high. On the screen, the Origin ledger's header glowed, scrolling proof lining the feed. Whispers became a wave, the sound of belief shifting. Professor Halpern stood in his seat. "I confirm," he said, voice steady, cutting the air. "Arya shared this model in my class last year. I saw the outline. It is hers." The general murmur exploded into chatter. The MC tried to regain order, but the room was tilting, momentum breaking away from Lena. Still, she clung to her stage. "You're twisting this," she hissed. "We brainstormed together. She gave me notes. That makes it shared." I let the silence stretch a beat longer before answering. "Shared is not stealing credit. Shared is not scrubbing names. Shared is not cashing applause with someone else's work. Shared means we stand side by side. Where were you standing tonight, Lena? Her cheeks flushed, fury flickering in her eyes. But the audience was no longer hers. Sponsors huddled over glowing screens. Attendees whispered sharp words into each other's ears. The narrative was breaking, and she could not stitch it back together. Then came the strike I had not planned. A voice from the back shouted, "It is all online. She is telling the truth." Phones buzzed louder, proof bouncing from one device to another like fire catching dry brush. The moderator's mic squealed. He glanced toward the organizers, pale and uneasy. "Perhaps we should pause." But I cut in, my voice steady. "Do not pause. Do not bury this in silence. Let everyone see it now." And for the first time, the spotlight left her. It swung, wide and unsteady, to rest on me. The silence after my words was electric. A silence so sharp it felt like the air itself was waiting to choose sides. Then it cracked. Dozens of phones lit up, the glow reflecting in eyes that had, minutes earlier, been wide with admiration for Lena. Fingers scrolled. Screenshots flew. The origin ledger was everywhere, undeniable in its cold sequence of dates and files. At my table, Danny whispered, almost in awe, "They see it, Arya. They all see it." On stage, Lena gripped the podium as though it might steady her crumbling world. Her smile had hardened into something brittle. "Do not be fooled," she said, her voice rising. "This is jealousy. She was a contributor, nothing more. We brainstormed together, and now she wants the spotlight." But the spotlight was already gone from her. Professor Halpern rose again, firm and unshaken. "That is not true. I can confirm what I have already said. Arya originated this model. She showed it to me in full detail long before Lena ever referenced it. The record matches my memory." The room buzzed louder, the tide shifting in waves. A sponsor at a front table whispered fiercely into her phone, her expression dark. A cluster of junior designers near the back held their phones aloft like lanterns, showing each other the evidence, their faces glowing with recognition and disbelief. Then a man from the audience stood. He was a vendor from Denver, someone I had once helped troubleshoot through the night. His voice carried across the space. "I was on the call when Arya built the pipeline fix. It was her. Always her. Lena wasn't there." Gasps. A ripple of shock moved through the hall like a shiver down a spine. Lena's face twisted, panic breaking through the facade. She tried to laugh, a high, thin sound. "So what, you are all turning against me because of some napkin sketch?" I met her eyes and spoke calmly, every syllable clear. "No, Lena. They are turning because the truth is louder than performance. You cannot scrub names from history when the proof is in their hands." She slammed her hand on the podium. "This is sabotage. This is a witch hunt." The moderator, pale and sweating, adjusted his mic. Perhaps we should transition to a break." But the audience was not waiting for him. The break had already begun, in whispers and angry stares and the steady unraveling of applause that would never return to Lena. I stepped closer to the stage, not climbing it, not shouting, just standing tall in the open. "I did not come here to destroy you. I came here to give credit back to where it belongs. To show that ideas matter, and so do names." The words hung in the air. A quiet strength. No theatrics. Someone near the stage clapped. Then another. The sound spread, uneven at first, then steady. Applause, not for her, but for truth. Lena froze, her chest rising and falling as if the air had turned heavy. Her red dress seemed too bright now, a costume under lights that no longer wanted her. She looked smaller with every second, dwarfed not by me, but by the evidence she could not erase. The moderator leaned toward her. "We need to close this down," he whispered, but the mic carried the words to the room. The humiliation was complete. Lena dropped the mic with a metallic thud. Without another word, she turned, heels striking hard against the stage as she walked off, head low. The spotlight, confused, lingered on an empty podium. Then, slowly, it found me again. And this time, it stayed. Morning lights spilled across my apartment floor like proof that the night before had not been a dream. My phone, still buzzing on the table, was buried under a mountain of notifications. Hundreds of messages, dozens of missed calls. Emails stacked one after another with subject lines that screamed, "We saw it. We believe you. Can we talk?" I poured coffee with shaking hands. I had not slept more than 2 hours, but exhaustion was drowned out by something sharper, vindication. The headlines came first. Articles flashed across my screen. Keynote meltdown, Rivers innovation claims debunked in real time. Another read, receipts rule the night, designer Aria Kane exposes plagiarism live. Images circulated online, Lena's frozen face at the podium, the napkin sketch glowing on screens around the hall, the moment she dropped the mic and fled. The internet devoured it all. But not all the reactions were digital. My phone rang with a familiar name. Professor Halpern. "You handled yourself with dignity," he said. "You gave them facts, not fire. That makes it unshakable." I thanked him, my throat tight. "Do you think they will still question it?" "They cannot," he replied. "Your ledger is airtight. They may whisper, but the narrative is set." After we hung up, another call came through, the conference board. A woman's voice, formal but cautious. "Aria, we are issuing a statement today. Official acknowledgement that your work was misattributed. We will be reviewing Lena's previous claims as well." Her tone softened. "You should know, several sponsors are already contacting us. They want you on panels next year. Some want you consulting immediately." The weight of those words hit me slowly, like bricks stacking until I realized I was standing taller. But the day carried shadows too. Social media was a battlefield. Lena's loyalists called me bitter, jealous, opportunistic. Anonymous accounts spat venom. Yet, beneath the noise, the truth pulsed louder, screenshots, timelines, and voices who had once been silent now shouting what they had seen. Midday, Maya appeared at my door with takeout and that steady presence that always kept me grounded. "Eat," she ordered gently. "Victories still need fuel." We sat at my kitchen table, food barely touched as she scrolled her phone. "Look at this," she said, showing me a clip. It was from the conference live stream, the moment I stood. The comments scrolled fast beneath it, "Courage. Finally. About time someone called her out." My chest tightened. Courage. A word I had not believed belonged to me until now. Then Danny called. Her voice was breathless with excitement. "Aria, you are trending." "Not her. You. People are telling their own stories, tagging you. It is a flood." I smiled faintly. "It feels unreal." "Good," she said. "Let it. You earned this." But even as the praise poured in, my mind drifted back to the hall, to Lena's face crumbling as truth caught up. She would not vanish quietly. I knew her too well. She would fight, claw, spin. Yet, unlike before, she had no clean stage left to stand on. That night, as I lay in bed, one thought kept repeating. The day after had given me recognition, but it was not about applause. It was about oxygen. For the first time in years, I could breathe in rooms where she no longer stood between me and my own work. And yet, beneath the relief, a question pressed at the edges of my mind. If Lena came back swinging, lawsuits, smear campaigns, whispered alliances, was I ready? I closed my eyes, replaying the applause that had followed me, not her. The spotlight had shifted. But holding it would be its own test. Weeks passed, yet the echo of that night lingered like a drumbeat beneath everything I did. The conference had moved on, the press cycle spun to new scandals, and still the emails came, offers, invitations, partnerships. For years my name had been a shadow tucked under someone else's spotlight. Now it stood on its own, etched into programs, reports, and contracts. But here is the truth no headline captures: revenge is not about the roar of applause. It is about the quiet shift inside, when you finally take back what was stolen. I walked into my office one morning, sunlight spilling across the desk, and paused. My notebooks, once hidden in drawers, once dismissed as drafts, now sat proudly in a glass case the company had installed. A plaque beneath read, Aria Kane, Original Innovator, 2023. I traced the letters with my fingertips. It was not vanity. It was correction. Maya visited often, her laughter reminding me that real friends do not need proof to stand beside you. Danny sent me screenshots of students quoting my work in their papers. Even Professor Halpern wrote, sometimes vindication takes the shape of a page finally turned. And Lena? She vanished from the circuit, her once flawless image crumbled into silence. Rumors swirled, that she had tried to sue, that sponsors cut ties, that she was rewriting her resume from scratch. I did not chase them. Her story was no longer mine to carry. What mattered was this: I had not destroyed her. I had simply told the truth in a way that could not be buried. And the truth did the rest. One evening, I returned to the rooftop where it all began. The string lights still glowed, but the air felt different. No podium. No performance. Just me, breathing freely. I raised a glass of water, simple and clear, and whispered to myself, credit matters. Stories matter. And so do names. Then I thought of you. Yes, you listening right now. Maybe you know what it feels like to have your work dismissed, your trust broken, your voice stolen by someone louder. Maybe you have been told to stay quiet, to pick your battles, to let it go. Do not. Because silence is not safety. Silence is the stage where liars thrive. If this story has reached you at the right moment, let it remind you, you are not too sensitive, you are not imagining things, you are not difficult for wanting your name on your own work. You are rightful. You are enough. Tell your story. Document your truth. And when the moment comes, claim your spotlight without apology. Because the world does not change when thieves are clever. It changes when the people they tried to silence stand up and say, this was mine. And if you want more stories where betrayal is exposed and justice finds its way back, you know where to find me. Subscribe, share, and stay until the end, because sometimes the most powerful revenge is not rage, but revelation.